So if calorie intake is matched, it really doesn't matter what dietary approach you're taking in terms of weight loss or weight maintenance, because the calories are always king. So if you ever see someone saying weight loss is better on intermittent fasting, they are not. And you can send the research paper to them.
Yeah, and be like, here, nerd, read this. Just kidding. We've got a deep dive today. Michael, this one's you.
I'm up today. It's a really cool topic. Do you know, I'm surprised we haven't covered this topic before. We've got to kind of series 3 and we've not covered a topic which is something we get asked about probably every single week.
Absolutely. So we're talking about intermittent fasting today, and that's actually one of my longest, most popular blog posts.
Is it? Interesting.
For Kate Lyman Nutrition, we blog every week. We've done this for at least 7 years now, and I want to say in 2018. I wrote this post about intermittent fasting, and it's still like constantly circulating. So there is interest in this topic. We know that to be true.
Note to self, write more blogs on intermittent fasting.
Well, we have a perfect lead into that right here.
I'm looking forward to chatting about this topic, actually. I feel like I've not delved into the research around intermittent fasting for a long time, despite talking about it for a while. So this was quite a fun one to look back into. Nothing kind of too surprising, but I'm hoping that today we can kind of bust a few myths around it. Should I just kind of jump straight into it?
Let's do it. It's like, what do we have to catch up on? We're tired, we're overworked, same.
Yeah, although you're about to go on a fun holiday without the little guy.
That's true.
That's exciting. That is fun.
And you are going to move into your office soon.
I'm moving office. This is
what we have going on.
This is the last recording of me recording in this room. I'm moving into our spare room, which is going to become like my studio space now. So even though I feel like I'm being booted out of my office for the new baby, I'm getting a bigger room. So it's kind of a fun, exciting change. So
wait, did you or I guess Emma's doing the decor, right? Like, you don't have any say.
I do have a say. Like, I don't want to kind of pretend like Emma just dictates what's happening in a house. But what I will say though is I am colorblind. So
what?
I don't pick color.
Did I never know this of you?
I don't think I've ever told you this. Yeah. I can see colors, but there's differentiations between certain blues and greens and stuff like that. There's some colors like reds and browns that I struggle with.
Okay.
So I do not choose colors. Emma will maybe be like, here's 2 that I like. Which do you prefer? Because even though I can't tell what they are sometimes, I can say which one looks better to my vision. I have decided, but it was a choice of 3 colors and I'm excited.
Do you know what color it is?
It's a green. It's a green.
Okay.
Color. Yeah. Yeah. So I
that one, it's gray.
A little bit. So it's really funny. See, we do have stuff to talk about, Kate. So my son is nearly 2. He's starting to say words and we're trying to teach him colors. And we'll be like, what color is this? And I'll be like, it's blue. And then look at Emma like, did I get that right?
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm teaching him the wrong colors by accident. I did say quite a few blues that were supposed to be purples. So that's clearly an issue that I have.
Yeah, he's going to go to nursery and be all sorts of messed up.
Yeah.
Well, you learn something every day. Maybe I knew that. I just swear I didn't.
Probably not. No, I don't think it's really come up in conversation, has it? Yeah.
It's just not public knowledge.
This is why I wear a lot of black, Kate, just so I can't go wrong.
No, that all tracks. All right, so back to intermittent fasting.
Yeah, sorry, that's why we're here today. So I'm just going to quickly outline how I'm going to approach this episode. So I'm going to explain what the basics of intermittent fasting are so that we have a good foundation to discuss it. And then I'm going to go through the different types of intermittent fasting, the main ones at least, because there's many people that adapt them and sell them as their own diet approaches. And then I'm simply going to go through the main health claims that we see around intermittent fasting to tell you whether there's legitimacy or whether it's just wildly overhyped. And I guess, as always, our goal here is that you, the listener, can become more informed consumer, as we mentioned quite often, of health information when knowing how to make positive dietary changes. And then we'll just kind of wrap up the episode about our final thoughts and whether we would recommend it. So does it sound fun?
Love it. Excited.
Yeah.
Teach me.
Cool. And my first question, as always, Kate, is have you ever done intermittent fasting?
You know it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean,
I love it.
If you've listened to any podcasts of ours, a common theme is that I come from a background of doing all the diets, since high school. So I have most definitely done almost everything you can think of. And intermittent fasting is one of those. And I will say it was not the worst thing I did. I've done way worse. And I'm sure we'll talk about this, but there were some benefits for me to intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I totally get that. We will touch on this in a bit as well. But I guess with every diet approach, there's individual variants, right, of what will work and what won't work. So what did you like about intermittent fasting, I guess? Let's start there.
For me, it was a little bit of minimizing decision making right? It's like, okay, now I'm not going to eat till noon, so I'm just not going to think about it. I felt like there was a little bit of kind of appetite regulation benefit for it being like, oh, I'm not hungry in the morning, I'm just going to go about my day, blah, 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 and then eat later. So it's nothing magical. There was, for me, no like, oh, all of a sudden I have mental clarity and, you know, whatever, better energy. But to sum it up, it was just not having to think about food until it was time to think about food.
That's cool. I like that. We'll touch on the kind of negatives later on after we've covered everything.
Wait, have you?
No, I haven't. I've never tried intermittent fasting. I can't think of anything worse, if I'm honest. I always saw the allure of certain diet approaches, especially when I first started on working in fitness and I was maybe a little bit more bro with my approach. But intermittent fasting just never
Never did it for you?
No, I just thought breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. It always has been. Like I wake up so excited for breakfast, just how I've always been.
Oh yeah, and you can't take that joy away. And there's people who start their eating window early and then cut off and like don't eat into the night. Nah, man, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it wasn't for me, so it was never attempted. Let's jump into it then, okay? So whether you've heard it from a friend, read about it online, or maybe even tried it yourself, it's a concept that sparks quite a lot of curiosity and a fair share of confusion too. First of all, what is fasting? I'm sure many people listening to this episode know what it is, but just in case they don't, intermittent fasting, or IF, as you'll sometimes see it written on social media, isn't really a diet in the traditional sense. It's not about what you eat, but more about when you eat it. So essentially, it's an eating pattern that switches between periods of eating and periods of fasting. And by fasting, we simply mean either absolutely no food at all or eating very small amounts of food during a designated time frame. And despite how these fasting protocols are packaged, intermittent fasting isn't new at all. It's been part of our human history for thousands of years. Our ancestors would have fasted out of necessity when food wasn't as readily available. It's only in modern times, with 24/7 access to food, that eating constantly has become the norm. Ancient fasting practices first emerged around 1500 BC within many religious groups. Fasting on designated holy days was common practice to reduce the burden and harm that harvesting and eating caused for both animals and plants. And also the founder of Buddhism fasted in an effort to achieve enlightenment or nirvana. So yeah, many religious groups around the world have used it for a very, very long period of time. The fasting was also used to kind of like treat certain illnesses as well. I'm going to kind of use air quotes here for those people that aren't watching us on YouTube. Many health issues before like medicinal routes were established too. Kate, we know what we're like with our notes. We make far too many notes. You're even worse than I am. I went down a rabbit hole, no joke, for like 2 hours into like the history of intermittent fasting before realizing like I don't think people really want to know that much.
You're so deep and you're like, literally no one wants to know this.
Yeah, so I literally did like 2 hours of research into the history of fasting and then was like, yeah, not even put this in.
Here's the question. Do you like word vomit all this to Emma?
Yeah, I do.
Because it's like someone's got to know what I just learned.
Yeah. And she's not interested at all, but I've got to tell someone. So if anyone kind of wants to know about the deep history of intermittent fasting, you can DM me at Michael Ejaya PT, because I'm kind of somewhat of an expert on the intermittent fasting history. But in like a very short butchered history lesson here, I believe it was used mostly for diabetes and epilepsy a long time ago because it helped manage blood sugar levels, handy for diabetics. And it also encouraged the creation of ketones from going without food for periods of time, which had a positive impact on epilepsy symptoms. And then they discovered that it worked better with a ketogenic diet, so it transitioned to that. But yeah, anyway, I digress.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was very cool reading. If anyone wants to go down the rabbit hole of history of fasting, it was actually quite interesting, but this is not the episode or the podcast for you. How to Fitness History will be coming back on another episode, another day. So what is the appeal of intermittent fasting, right? So we know that some people love to talk about how our ancestors ate, so therefore it must be optimal for us right now. But many proponents claim that it has a range of benefits, from improving metabolic health to aiding in weight management, boosting mental clarity, as Kate mentioned earlier. But as this is important, it's not a magic solution by any means. Like any health and fitness strategy, it's just one tool in like a much larger toolbox. What makes intermittent fasting unique is the concept of controlled eating window. So instead of spreading meals and snacks throughout the day, you condense your eating into a specific time frame. I will, as I said, I'll go through all the different fasting protocols here, but for example, like the 16-8 method, where you fast for 16 hours and then you eat your meals all within an 8-hour window. So if your first meal is at noon, your last bite will be at 8 p.m, for example. So quite simple. It's quite fun. There's a lot of fasting diets out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some I hear and I'm like, oh, like the 24 on, 24 off. That sounds horrible. I mean, all of it sounds horrible in a way. If you think about the 16-8, at least that one kind of makes sense. Not like defending it, but like that's really doable.
Yeah, and like some people don't like eating breakfast. So like you sleep for 8 hours roughly. I wish I slept for 8 hours, but you sleep for 8 hours roughly, and then you just don't eat for a few hours, and then you just go on as normal. It feels almost quite straightforward for a lot of people, right?
So back in my intermittent fasting days, it wasn't like this hardcore. It wasn't like going around like, oh, I intermittent fast. I just literally adopted the 12 to 8 p.m. eating window because it made sense for me. But I was coaching CrossFit and I was coaching a 5 a.m. class. I think it was 5:15. So I was up at like 4:15 every morning. And I found that this is why I did it, because I was like, if I start eating now, I have a long way to go to get to dinner.
Yeah, it's true, right?
It's like a long time that I'd be hungry all day instead of kind of pushing back the beginnings of hunger. So I don't know. That was my experience. But now I look back and I'm like, okay, that was definitely some restriction at play. And, I wouldn't do that now. That's what I think.
You've also just kind of given me slight flashbacks to in-person coaching full time and having to get up at like 3-4 o'clock.
And how brutal it is. Yeah.
My God. I don't think a lot of people quite realize how exhausting it is, personal training in person full time. Like it is rough. You're training people before work, you train people after work. There's like this weird period throughout the day where you're kind of floating around doing your own training and program writing. It's long hours, and I don't miss full time in-person coaching.
Yeah, nope. Well, this was grad school for me. So 5 a.m., 6 a.m., then go to school all day and then come back in 4, 5, 6 p.m.
But look at you now, Kate. Look at you now.
Yeah.
All paid off.
Humble beginnings.
Okay, cool. Right, let's go.
Sorry.
No, we digress as much as we want here. We make the rules, Kate. So a common question that comes up is, if it's just about eating windows, then why does it work, once again, in air quotes, for some people? There's a few potential reasons here. So one is the simplicity around intermittent fasting, as Kate mentioned once again at the start. For some people, having clear rules about when to eat can be easier than sticking to like calorie counting or obsessing about meal compositions, for example. It's like setting a timer for your eating. Once it goes off, you're done. And for some people, I can get why that feels quite attractive, whether they're trying to lose weight or even just kind of weight maintenance or health longevity or whatever it is. I kind of see the allure. Another theory revolves around metabolic processes, and I will say theory here. When you're fasting, your body isn't busy digesting food, so it has a chance to focus on other functions like cellular repair, which we will definitely touch on. And autophagy is something that is a big section of this episode, because this is kind of like the thing that intermittent fasters cling on to. So we will come back to that. It's not all kind of sunshine and rainbows, right? So some people apparently find intermittent fasting incredibly freeing, whilst others struggle with it. Skipping meals can leave you feeling irritable, low on energy, overly focused on food. And let's not forget that, as with any diet, it's just not suitable for everyone. If you're pregnant, a history of disordered eating, or you struggle with blood sugar regulation, or like there's all these things that you have to take into consideration when you're choosing the way that you should be eating. And for a lot of people, intermittent fasting should just not be a consideration at all. I strongly stand by that. So at its core, it's a flexible approach to eating that some people swear by and some people hate. So excited to delve into the research a little bit here and see what you think about it all, Kate, actually.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, but before we do that, we're going to quickly fire through the different types of fasting, because there's a lot of them.
There's so many.
Yeah, these are like I think it was like 5 or 6 that I chose, just who are like the most popular ones that come up when you're searching them. So as I mentioned, the 16-8 method, this is by far the most popular and most widely practiced. And as I mentioned, you fast for 16 hours, eat for 8 hours, and there it is. It's usually recommended for people who have like busy mornings or those who don't usually feel hungry earlier in the day. There's also another one that's like a more relaxed version of that, which is like the 14-10 method. But I was reading about this and I was like, this is just like eating normally,
this is just
right?
Eating. It's just like either not eating the second you wake up
Yeah.
or not eating after dinner.
Yeah, it's bonkers. Yeah. So
If you want to call it that, I mean, go ahead.
If you want to name your diet, crack on. I'm going to go for the 16-8.
I actually did the 12-12.
Yeah, exactly. Then we have the 5-2 diet. So this one takes a weekly approach instead of focusing on daily eating windows. And those people based in the UK, this was popularized by a well-known television doctor who is sadly no longer with us, but his name was Dr. Michael Mosley, and he was like a strong advocate of this diet all of the time, and it really annoyed me. But this is kind of the 5-2 diet. And so what you do is you'd kind of eat normally, once again, air quotes, and normally 5 days a week, and then 2 days a week you would fast, where you'd eat between 500 and 600 calories a day. It was a very popular book within the UK. It's like one of those bestsellers that was annoyingly popular. This was a very popular fasting protocol over in the UK. I don't know if it was in the US as well.
Definitely heard of it, but it doesn't sound like the same level of popularity. Also, it kind of sounds like my worst nightmare.
Agreed. Like, I don't think he created the diet. He got it from someone else. I wonder whether it was maybe like a US-based diet seller, whatever you call those people.
Like some supplement
company
maybe. Or something.
Then there is the eat, stop, eat method. So this involves fasting for a full 24 hours once or twice a week. So for instance, you might finish dinner at 7 p.m. one day and not eat again until 7 p.m. the next day. And once again, this sounds like my worst nightmare, but I'm going to try and stay impartial here. And then there's the alternate day fasting approach. And as the name suggests, you kind of alternate between a fasting day and an eating day. Fasting days, you consume either no food at all or up to like 500 calories. And then your eating days, eat normally.
What's the difference between the eat, stop, eat?
So the eat, stop, eat was just like either 1 or 2 days a week you don't eat. Whereas this one is literally just like alternating constantly.
Oh,
yeah, it's a lot. Then the final one that I was going to make a comment on, which is the warrior diet. And this just makes me laugh because of the name. And this one kind of flips the script a little bit by encouraging small amounts of raw fruits and vegetables during the day and then reserving one large meal every evening.
As a warrior does.
Yeah, literally. It's apparently inspired by like ancient warrior cultures. But in modern times, it's often marketed as a way to align our natural circadian rhythms. I can't say that without just sounding really icky, but...
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, I used to follow this guy on Instagram, I'm guessing, or maybe it was Facebook. That's how long we're talking about. I gotta go find him now. Do you ever like follow someone really closely and then you trail off and then you're like, what's that person doing? So he ate like 5,000 to 7,000 calories a day. That was like his intake. He did like calisthenic stuff. He was like a big guy, super strong, but he ate it in one meal. He would... Oh, no, it was disgusting. He would create these meals and he would just eat from kind of ultra processed foods. He'd make a pizza out of pizzas or something like that.
Did he do this all the time? This is like his diet?
He's like every day.
His digestive system, man.
I know.
That is not
and
good.
I would watch it out of like shock and awe, almost like, what's going on in your body and how do you feel? Because this seems miserable. And it'd be at like midnight, like a true warrior, just one. Just one meal.
Yeah. Just with Twinkies and pizzas like every true warrior.
Literally that. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go find him. So
please
carry on.
We will not link him below because we don't want to cause a pile on. However, Kate is definitely going to share this account with me after we finish recording.
Absolutely.
Those are all the different fasting protocols. As I said, there were hundreds more because so many people have branded their own fasting diets. They all are kind of around the eating window of you eat and then you fast, eat and then you fast. So that is enough of that. So we are now, going to put on our nerdy hats again because this is where we delve into the research around all the different claims you see around intermittent fasting. I feel like I had to start with weight loss simply because it's the one...
Yep.
Like most people turn to intermittent fasting for weight loss. I'm sure that everyone listening to this has either known someone following a fasting diet for weight loss or they've been exposed to the advertising around intermittent fasting or how it's superior for fat loss compared to other dieting protocols. A quick side note here as well, like some people will claim that intermittent fasting is better for weight loss because you don't need to worry about being in a calorie deficit, and they're wrong. Like point blank, they're wrong. No matter what diet you follow, the main driver will always be calorie balance. Just pretend that I'm like slamming a beer against my head as I shout calorie deficit as I say that. It comes down to calorie balance, and that's always the main driver. Like there's other aspects to it, don't get me wrong, but that's like the main driver there. So anyone claiming that you can lose weight from doing intermittent fasting whilst not in a calorie deficit is just lying. So yeah, don't forget that point. So does intermittent fasting have superior weight loss results to any other diet approach? So this is where we turn to the great meta-analysis. I know we speak about research during all these podcast episodes, but just to quickly highlight why meta-analysis is such a great tool for understanding research. And for those who aren't aware, a meta-analysis is a method of comparing and analyzing different data from multiple studies that all address the same research question. So they comb through all the data on the topic and then give you like overarching findings. And that's why me and Kate will bang on about meta-analysis quite a lot in these episodes. They're very cool if you like reading nerdy research papers.
I'm just like actually watching Michael get excited about this.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, see, you got to watch this on YouTube, guys. You can see my pure excitement. It's either the research I'm talking about or the fact that I've got a Fanta here with me as well. That's bringing me...
When we were in Spain, Michael was just on and on about these Fantas.
Honestly, it's one of the reasons we go to Spain so regularly is because their Fanta is so good. So every Fanta uses like the water and different fruit from the areas that the Fanta is, like the country that you're in. So Spanish Fanta is by far the best Fanta. There we go. So yeah, the one in the UK it's okay. It's good, but it's got nothing on Spain, I'm afraid.
Moving on. Okay,
so
now
sad.
science.
Okay, so this meta-analysis is from October 2024, so a nice recent one, actually. We will always link these in the show notes, so if anyone is a nerd like us and wants to read them, just go check out the show notes. And this intermittent fasting meta-analysis compared fasting to regular continuous calorie restriction. So intermittent fasting led to a slightly greater reduction in body weight and fat mass, but the findings were not statistically significant, which basically means they can't be certain or it could be down to coincidence. So in terms of weight loss, fasting was not significantly better than regular calorie restriction for losing weight. Both approaches also had similar effects on lean mass and waist and hip circumference too, as well as cardiometabolic markers such as like blood pressure, lipid profiles, and glucose metabolism. So if calorie intake is matched, it really doesn't matter what dietary approach you're taking in terms of weight loss or weight maintenance, because the calories are always king. So if you ever see someone saying weight loss is better on intermittent fasting, they are not, and you can send the research paper to them.
Yeah, and be like, here, nerd, read this. Just kidding. Yeah. So we think about it, and this is how I explain, because, you know, we get this question a lot. If you're watching me, you can see my visual, but you've got a 12-hour eating day, or day of eating, right? Say you got your first meal at 7 a.m., last one at 7 p.m. You squish it down to 8 hours, you're probably going to consume fewer calories. So there's no superior benefit, except that it may be easier to consume fewer calories.
Spot on.
In a shorter window. And that can be true. Well, it also doesn't have any of these superior qualities.
Yeah, completely. But that, once again, that also depends on the individual. Like that can have massive individual variance. So on that topic as well, so hunger suppression, like this is another one that you see a lot of people talking about around intermittent fasting. And many people claim that fasting is superior to other diets because it suppresses their hunger better than kind of regular continuous calorie restriction. But luckily, Kate, there is another meta-analysis for this. So in 2023, titled The Effect of Intermittent Fasting on Appetite. So this review suggests that intermittent fasting interventions are not associated with a reduction in hunger, fullness, or prospective food consumption when compared to continuous energy restriction interventions. So it seems that fasting does not improve hunger suppression. However, they did find that intermittent fasting increased fullness and decreased people's desire to eat compared to the continuous energy restriction. So there we go. It's no better for hunger suppression. There might be some small variances there from person to person.
Yeah, it's basically saying like there's no added benefit for hunger suppression, but some people might feel like there is.
Yeah, exactly, that's
kind of what it's saying, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people who claim that intermittent fasting has all these extra benefits are like, I feel great, my mental clarity is fantastic.
N=1, man. It's a lot of N=1, yeah.
Placebo is a blooming glorious thing, and if enough people tell you that intermittent fasting is going to help you reduce feelings of hunger and improve your concentration, maybe you're going to start to believe it.
Yeah, I don't know if you feel the same. So I'll have a lot of clients or prospective clients or people on the internet come to me like, what about XYZ? And sometimes it's Optavia or, you know, like something that's like a shake replacement or detox, to go back to our last episode or a few episodes ago. And I'm like, no, listen here. Here's why we're not going to do that. When people come to me about intermittent fasting, I usually explain the why behind it. And then like my piece is, you know what, but if you want to, like, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't ever knock it the way I might knock like meal replacement with all smoothies or whatever, you know, because it's so preferential. And there's people out there who probably eat a 16-8 split and have never heard of intermittent fasting or call it that, because that's just like the pattern that makes sense for their lives.
Completely agree. I've had clients come to me to work with me who have followed intermittent fasting for a long time and feel pretty good on it. It's like, who am I to tell them that they're wrong and they shouldn't do it? You know, like if it works for you, then yeah, crack on, like go for it.
Right. And I'm sure we'll talk about this, but like it could totally be harmful. It can absolutely be harmful if we're using it for a tool for extreme restriction or whatever. And it can be just, I don't know, helpful or beneficial or just kind of neutral for someone. It's not the same like 2 thumbs down from us that like we give to a lot of other things.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's not in the kind of carnivore section of
we're not talking about carnivore.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm scared to do an episode on that because the people will come for us, Kate. All those warriors that have moved on from the warrior diet to the carnivore diet will come for us.
Man.
Cool. So now we're going to move on to like one of the biggest arguments, as I mentioned, you see around intermittent fasting, and that's autophagy. And Kate, I don't know about you, but there's few words that I come across, this is slightly off track a bit, but in the literature, or you see that always stump me in the pronunciation, and autophagy is one of those. Every time I read it, I say autophagy. autophagy in my head.
Autophagy. Yeah.
Every time.
That's definitely how I say it in my head.
Yeah, but I know that it's not. It's autophagy. So if I do it wrong here, I apologize, everyone. I am smart, I promise.
When I hear you say it, I'm like, what are you talking about? But I know what you're talking about. You're talking about what in my head is autophagy.
Autophagy. Yeah, cool. Right, I'm so glad that's you as well, Kate. It makes you feel a little less stupid. Thank you. So first of all, what is autophagy? So autophagy is your body's process of reusing old and damaged cell parts. So cells are like the basic building blocks of everything, like tissue and organ in our bodies. Each cell contains multiple parts that keep it functioning. Over time, these parts can become defective or stop working, and they become junk, basically, in an otherwise healthy cell. Autophagy is almost like your body's cellular recycling system. So it allows a cell to disassemble its junk parts and repurpose them into new usable cell parts again, and a cell can discard the parts it doesn't need. It's like quality control, basically, for your cells. Too many junk components in a cell take up space and can slow or prevent a cell from functioning correctly. So autophagy remakes the clutter into the selected cell components you need, and basically like optimizing the cell's performance. That's the kind of very quick, very boring explanation of what autophagy is. The thing with autophagy is it's like not as black and white as people think. There are actually some cancers as well where autophagy is elevated, so it's seen as a bad thing. So when it's just spouted as like, this is awesome, we kind of need to step back and take a bigger look at what all of this means. It kind of always depends on the context. So people that promote intermittent fasting will claim that boosting autophagy is unique to fasting, but it isn't. Yes, intermittent fasting does boost autophagy. However, so does any form of calorie restriction. However, there's also a really cool point from this research paper too. So this research paper looked at autophagy, but also kind of weight loss too, which is a really important point, and one of the reasons that I don't recommend intermittent fasting to anyone. So both groups in the study lost similar amounts of weight. The group that had regular kind of eating throughout the day, they lost 90% of their weight was from body fat mass. However, the fasting group, 50% was from fat mass and 50% was from lean body weight, which is not what we want at all.
No, our worst nightmare.
We do not want our body eating into what we need to thrive and feel good. They also found that those who were in the alternate day fasting group had a lower non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So in short, they just moved around less. They were unaware of this happening, but they just moved around less and therefore burned fewer calories throughout the day. They just didn't want to move around as much. And also, this is not what you want. So if you're someone who is reaching out for intermittent fasting for weight loss and autophagy, yeah, you'll lose weight following an intermittent fasting protocol and autophagy will happen. However, you might lose more muscle mass along the way whilst doing it.
Question. This is with the alternate day fasting
Alternate
approach,
day fasting,
right?
yes.
Did they control for protein intake?
Yes, they did, I believe.
Whoa.
Yeah, there was actually a really, really cool research paper. Once again, I will link this below. It's a very, very cool research paper. And everything was matched. So they had alternate day fasting with kind of regular eating throughout the day. They also had a control group who was intermittent fasting, but not in a calorie deficit that they were comparing to. And the findings are really, really cool. It basically
I'm excited to look at that.
does not look good for intermittent fasting, this research paper, in short.
A lot of that tracks, right? If someone tells me I can't eat for a whole day, which first off, have I ever even done that? I don't believe so.
No.
I don't think I've ever not eaten for a whole day. My energy would be so low. My headache would be so great that you're not going to catch me moving around a lot.
It's true. So for those listening who are thinking, why is this such a bad thing? Where the body weight comes off from? When you're looking to lose weight, there's reasons that we tell people to eat really high protein, make sure they're not in too big a calorie deficit, that you keep on doing strength training. Like you want to do everything you can to keep your lean body mass, because this is what's going to keep you healthy and kind of keep healthy weight in the future post your weight loss phase too. So if you're following a diet protocol that is eating into lean body mass, it's really not what you want at all. I would tell people that's just not a great diet to follow. I will also say that because this is an alternate day fasting approach, it's probably more severe than following like the 16-8 protocol, which would likely have less of an impact. However, it still probably would have an impact compared to just continuous eating.
Probably. Yeah. I even want to emphasize for women, this is an even greater risk. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a risk for everyone, but to lose muscle mass and bone mass as a woman when we already lose it at such a, like, you know, sarcopenia, osteopenia, high rates, especially after 30 and then through perimenopause, etc. You got to be doing everything possible to not facilitate more muscle or bone mass loss. So
it's so true. And I'm really glad you made that point. Dr. Stacey Sims, anyone who's interested in this topic, I would thoroughly recommend recommend you checking out her work. She's also done some big interviews on quite a lot of the big podcasts that we'd probably now say are slightly problematic because every podcast host seems to go a little bit wacko. But her content is fantastic, so please go and check out her stuff. And she talks a lot around intermittent fasting and how she would never recommend it for women for all the reasons that Kate just mentioned. She goes into it in a lot more depth in terms of like the cortisol spikes that occur for women and having to manage hormone fluctuations. Also, a lot of the research showing health benefits in intermittent fasting, they're done in kind of like obese men or kind of obese perimenopausal women, I believe. Like, it's really specific subject groups that they've done the research in. So there's so much unknown that I just don't think we should be recommending a diet approach like this when there is the potential for lean body mass being lost, bone mineral density decreasing. I just would never recommend this for a woman to follow for that reason. There is a lot of controversy around this topic though, because I know that Dr. Lane Norton, who is an authority figure or seen as an authority figure within the fitness space on nutrition, he recently did a post saying how it's fine for women to do intermittent fasting, and all the comment section was filled with angry Dr. Stacey Sims followers telling her that he's like contradicting what she's saying. So I think it's just because there's so much unknown, it just wouldn't be something that I would recommend.
Last thing to add, I know that this topic of intermittent fasting is massive in the menopause space, because probably from some of those smaller studies, there was this idea that women in menopause should be intermittent fasting. And oh man, I really don't want to misquote this, so I'll have to figure it out when it was exactly and put it in the show notes. But there was like an International Menopause Society meeting. There's an annual meeting. And in that meeting in 2024, I remember following it very closely because, you know, I've been all nerding out about menopause research for a long time. They said specifically intermittent fasting is not recommended for women in menopause, and they gave their reasons and stuff, and a lot of it's what we're talking about. But like the International Menopause Society's stance is no, there's a lot of misinformation. This is not the way to go.
Once again, Dr. Mindy Peltz, am I pronouncing her name right? She's seen as kind of an authority figure on all things health and maybe nutrition focused in the US. She is a chiropractor and completely unqualified in nutrition. I've done a few videos on social media calling out the misinformation that she spreads. She is a big advocate for people to be following intermittent fasting. And for all the reasons we've mentioned, I just would never take anything seriously that she says, especially around intermittent fasting, because there is a lot of wild health claims that are just not backed up by evidence. It's great that we've got people like Dr. Stacey Sims calling out this stuff because, as I said, there's just so much unknown. I just don't think we should be recommending something when we already know there's potential downfalls for it. But then when there is still so much unknown, it just feels wild to be recommending, especially when you've got a platform of millions of people telling people to follow intermittent fasting. It's just crazy.
Right, like any broad sweep recommendation for something like that just doesn't make sense. And I feel like it might sound like we're contradicting ourselves, but I feel like we're differentiating between broad sweeping statements around this is for everybody versus individual experience and what works for a certain person, right? Does it feel like we're clear on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's just the joys of nutrition, right? Like there is just no right or wrong. It completely depends.
It depends.
Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to touch on in terms of the benefits, I'm using air quotes, is you'll see a lot of people claiming that it's great for reducing your risk of Alzheimer's disease. It's something that I've seen quite a few people. Dana White, who runs the UFC.
Oh, geez.
He's recently done some work with, I can't remember the name of the guy. He lost a lot of weight and followed a lot of weird things, did a lot of ice baths and intermittent fasting, so suddenly has become like an authority figure. I mean, he started spouting on some podcasts about how doing intermittent fasting can reduce your risk of getting Alzheimer's by 70% and all these crazy numbers. There is absolutely no research showing that you can reduce your risk of diseases like Alzheimer's from following intermittent fasting. There is quite a lot of animal research around this topic that shows some promising signs, potentially, but I don't know if anyone realizes that we're not rats, and so everything that happens on them in research papers, we can't just suddenly say, oh look, this is suddenly going to be incredible for humans to follow. I wanted to make that point.
That's so predatory, because if anyone listening has had a close family friend, anyone with Alzheimer's, it's scary, right? The research comes out and says this will prevent Alzheimer's by 70%. Like, yeah, I'm going to do that thing too, right? But to misquote that and to just kind of make up your own statistics? No.
I think we should leave the wild health claims to people who have actually done the research and not those who are just kind of
novel idea.
UFC and have big followings because of it. A couple of reasons why I kind of touched on these at the start that I don't tend to recommend intermittent fasting off the bat with people is I've seen with clients who have done it in the past, we've had conversations with them, is it can sometimes lead to overeating and eating windows. And I think that this isn't discussed enough about intermittent fasting is because we're seen as like, right, we're going to cut down calorie intake by by eating in a certain time frame, what you'll often see is people will start to cram in more food than they would normally eat within that time frame. Therefore, that kind of calorie deficit that you're aiming for is completely gone. But also just your relationship with food that you're creating by doing that becomes something that is just not good, in short. And so that is one of the reasons that I don't like intermittent fasting. So if we are looking for a healthy diet to do long term, because this is what everyone should be doing in order to promote health, lose weight, whatever it is, if you're suddenly drastically changing the way that you are eating and forcing yourself to eat within a certain time frame that doesn't sit with how your body feels good to eat, there's a lot that can go wrong with that. So for that reason, if you're someone who loves eating breakfast, for example, please do not follow an intermittent fasting protocol where you can't eat until 12 p.m. because it's just never going to end well.
Yes. Or if you're active and you're trying to force some eating window that does not allow you to fuel the workouts you do, like, no, this is not going to be helpful for you. That is very counterintuitive to getting stronger, recovering better, feeling better, having more appetite regulation, because if you're not eating around your workouts, like, you're probably going to feel pretty crappy. That's a big one that I put my foot down and say, no, this is not serving you right now if someone's not fueling around their workouts because they're trying to stick to a specific eating window.
I completely agree. So in the interest of balance, who might this work for? Like people who like structure, who don't like eating breakfast. If these things all seem to fit with the way that your body likes to consume food, yeah, maybe you could try it and it might work. But I think there's a lot more points in the potential negatives column than there is in potential benefits. Like if you have a history of disordered eating, for example, it's just going to encourage more restrictive eating behaviors. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, I would never recommend you go down the intermittent fasting route. If you're highly active or you're an athlete, all the research points towards kind of like regular feedings to kind of keep muscle protein synthesis going, topping up glycogen levels so your performance is good. Like all these things that you need to perform to your best, intermittent fasting just doesn't promote that in any way. And then, as I said, like if you're a woman, I just would never recommend this for the reasons that me and Kate discussed earlier. And that's kind of my like little takeaway there.
I like it.
Helps.
No, I think that's really good. Like everything else in our nutrition, it comes down to such an individual level. All of the points you're talking about, preferences, history with food, relationship with food, all of these things, like it all comes down to your specific experience and your specific lifestyle. And then it probably suggests you don't do it.
Yeah.
But it depends. I think it's fair to say the alternate day fasting, or like anytime you're doing 24 hours off, like that's just a hard no.
Agreed.
To me, that feels like a hard no. It just doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form that you would feel good, perform to your best, have a regular appetite, feel normal, or whatever normal is around food, right? Maybe we all need to 14-10. That's what you can recommend.
Yeah.
All I can recommend in good conscience is a 12-12 eating window.
16-8 is me. I'm on board for that. So coming back to our point at the start of the episode, Kate, with your intermittent fasting, you told us kind of what worked and what you liked about it. What didn't go so well with intermittent fasting?
I didn't have many like this, like sucked because this. I will say it was not a long-term solution for me. I'm not trying to be all pro intermittent fasting, but in this short period of time in my life, it worked for me and my schedule. And then my schedule changed and it didn't make sense, right? This is almost like a short-term strategy used for me at a point where my schedule was so hectic and so demanding, and it is the only thing that made sense. And also, I was in a calorie deficit at that time. Intentional. This was pre-wedding. First and only time I've done like a really hardcore calorie deficit, and that was a strategy I implemented to make it a little more feasible. This is not me signing off on doing that. It made sense in that one moment, and then I've never gone back there again.
Okay, well, Kate is sponsored by Fasting Corp, so don't listen to Kate. Yeah. So there we go. It's a fun topic in terms of, I think there's just so much misinformation around it. Okay, I think I'm completely with you there. Like any of the alternate day fasting or 5-2 diets, that kind of thing, would just absolutely never recommend it. If you don't like eating breakfast and you kind of like the structure, then kind of eat your heart out.
And Michael's judging you because he loves breakfast.
I will. Yeah. How could you not want breakfast? It always blows my mind when someone says,
I just don't like breakfast foods.
Do you not? Okay.
No, I eat breakfast. Breakfast foods are, in my opinion, the worst of the foods.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Strong stance.
Okay. I think we might just lost half our listeners with that comment, Kate.
It's...
I would rather go out for breakfast than go out for dinner.
Oh, no, you're like Kenny. I know. This is such a challenge of our life.
Oh, really?
Like pancakes? Do you want to eat pancakes?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, like cool porridges, overnight oats, pancakes, like cooked
Cool
breakfast.
porridges.
Yeah, you can get you can make some pretty cool.
Okay, you just lost half the audience.
It's the little things,
like a
right?
cool
We
porridge.
do not get out much anymore, and I live through my porridge types that I can make. There's a place called Dishoom. I don't know if you've ever been to it in the UK. It's an Indian restaurant. It does kind of like tapas-y style plates usually, but their breakfasts are fantastic, and they do a really good porridge, which I think when you come over to Edinburgh, Kate, which will inevitably happen, I will take you.
You're like smiling so hard about this porridge.
I will take you to Dishoom and take you for some good porridge, and you will love it.
I can't wait.
In Scotland, some people have porridge with like salt on it, which weirds me out a little bit. I feel like porridge needs to be sweet, but I'm not going to judge a little.
You just judge people who don't like it. Got it. That's fine.
Yeah, I will.
That's fine. It depends. Everyone's an individual. That's our takeaway here.
It's true. So thank you so much for listening, guys. Any thoughts, any questions, please send them our way. Once again, we are recording these all for YouTube, so if you want to watch along and watch me cheesing my way through talking about breakfast, then yeah, check us out on YouTube. I think it's just How to Fitness Pod or podcast, is it, Kate? I feel like we should know this. We'll link it in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll link it in the show notes. And yeah, share our podcast, leave us a review, whatever. It really helps to spread the word. And thanks for listening as always.
Talk soon.